Hi, thanks very much for clicking on my video. My name is Michael and I'm an amateur coffee connoisseur based in Bangkok, Thailand. So today I'm going to talk about how I like to clean the O-rings within my Flair system. So I use the Flair Neo, but I've upgraded it with the bottomless porta filter, and I also have the pressure gauge as well. So I'll be going through the O-rings on this as well as within the water reservoir itself. So this is from the Neo, but it's also compatible with the Classic and the Signature. You'll probably find this information useful for the other models as well. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the O-rings out. So I use a small spoon, and I just slide the spoon into the ring, gently prise it out, and it pops out. You want to be kind of gentle with that. You don't want to split the O-ring, you don't want to be too aggressive with it. You're just trying to manually get the spoon underneath so it will take it. It's really important to remember where these O-rings go as well, so I always line them up next to the piece of equipment I'm using. So I've got my water cylinder and my water cylinder O-ring, so they're going to stay together. The next one we're going to take off are the O-rings from the sort of plunger itself. This one's a little bit easier because you can just push it with your fingers and it will start to come off. And you can take one. Same again with the other one. Just push it up with your fingers and it will come off nice and easy. These are both exactly the same size, so you don't have to worry about top and bottom. But again, just put them alongside the piece of equipment they came out of. And then the final one I clean is on the pressure gauge. Same thing again, just push it up with my fingers and then it will come out. This one's a lot smaller, it's kind of obvious that it doesn't belong anywhere else. But again, just keep it in place so you know which O-ring goes with which. Okay, so for this I'm going to use some simple olive oil. I've got some clean dry rag, and I've also got a cotton bud so that I can actually clean around the where the O-rings go. So let's start with the reservoir itself. We want to get inside where that O-ring lives in there. That picks up quite a lot of grime and dirt. So I take my O-ring, I take my cotton bud and I place it where the O-ring would normally go, and I just run it round, moving the reservoir so that the cotton bud gets in there deep. Now, it's a bit gross. Close your eyes if you're not too a fan of grossy things. But there we go. It's pretty dirty, as you can see. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do it on the other side. It's amazing how much dirt this picks up, and I clean this weekly. So this is about a week's use, maybe 2 to 3 times a day I actually use it. And that's a little bit cleaner. Okay, great. So I'm happy with that, it's nice and clean. So now with the O-ring itself, I don't use any solvents or any cleaning materials with it. I literally just run it through a cloth, gently pulling it through a cloth. You can use some hot water if it looks really grimy. My one, it's not too bad, a little bit of coffee on there, but very, very little. Because it's getting the hot water on it every time you use it, it sort of gets a clean every time you add the hot water, but the water doesn't get into where the O-ring sits, so that gets a lot dirtier. Okay, once I've completed that, I want to put a little bit of the olive oil, the smallest amount. Now this is where a lot of the questions have come from, which has prompted me to make this video in the first place. So what I like to do is I will literally take the smallest amount on the end of my finger, just a dribble. Nice and easy like that. Okay, and then I will massage that into my fingers like so. Okay, so that all that's left on my finger is a fine film of oil. Bit weird, I know. Now, then I will run my finger around the O-ring like so. So I haven't added the oil directly to the O-ring, I've added it to my finger, and then as you see I'm massaging it around like so. Then I will take my cloth, and once again I'll just gently wipe off any excess. I'm not going to be too aggressive, I want to keep some on there, but not too much. And then hey presto, finished. Place that back in. If we work in order, then we know where the O-rings go. So to put it in, just sort of line it up against the groove. Keep one finger in place, and then it should just push straight in. Easy, just like so. So there's number one done. I'm going to go through and do all of these. It's the same process. So with the plunger, it's got two grooves. So again, you want to run your cotton bud round there. That's pretty gross. I might use the second one. Just run that around the top. Alright. Pretty disgusting, so I'm going to use my second cotton bud. Just to give it a good clean. So you can run this underwater, but I really don't see the need for that. Okay. And then once you're happy that's nice and clean, give it an inspection. You can make sure so there's no scratches and dents. So I've still got that oil on my finger. I don't need to add any more. There's no need. So again, I'm just going to run my fingers around the O-ring. Now because there's very, very little left, I'm not even going to wipe it. I don't feel there's a need. Just going to stick it back in place as one. And again, just going to massage that around. There we go. Awesome. And there's number two. And then finally, we have the pressure gauge itself. So finally, I'm going to clean around the top of the pressure gauge where the O-ring actually sits. Because this is made of plastic and it's a lot smaller. It's a little bit harder to sort of manipulate. So just take your time and run it around. Now, you can clean inside the pressure gauge hole itself, because obviously that makes contact with the water, so the grime does get in there. But I'm yet to find a way of doing that well. So what I have been doing is I've been taking the cotton bud and just gently cleaning the very, very end of it. It's pretty gross in there. I haven't yet taken it apart. Kind of don't think it's that necessary. I don't want to start messing around with the settings of the pressure gauge itself. I don't want to upset that. So just give it a nice clean. Again, finally take my O-ring. There's a little bit of oil on my table that I spilled, so I'm just going to massage that into my fingers. Now what you'll also find when you do the pressure gauge is it's much, much easier to put in and out of the plunger itself. So a lot of times when I blade, I've got my water reservoir ready with the coffee in. If you imagine, that's all ready to go. And then I like to preheat this as well, because it's quite a large solid piece of metal. So when I then place that on top, like so, and I've added my water, I do find that after a while this gets quite challenging to get in. But once I put a little bit of that oil on there, it goes in really, really smooth, really simple. And also when it comes to removing it, it's really easy to put in and out. And it doesn't mess around with the pressure. It doesn't affect the pressure. It's not like it makes a it removes any sort of sealing, because it doesn't. It just makes the plunger going a lot easier, a lot smoother. Okay, so that is how I maintain my Flair portafilter and water reservoir, certainly the O-rings inside of it. I generally run it without the spout, so it's always a good idea to give that a really good clean as well when you're washing it, just to make sure you're getting any of that grime, because it does build up, certainly on the smaller gap on the inside there. Alright, I really hope you found that video useful. I'm going to now go and brew myself some coffee on my nice clean equipment, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.